The Boxcar Children, The Mystery on the Ice by Gertrude Chandler Warner. Chapter 7. The Diamond Ring. Sadly, Violet slipped the diamond ring into her pocket. It was hard to believe Carl was a thief. "We'd better go home and tell Grandfather," she said. "I suppose you're right, Violet." Jessie felt sad too. "Wait!" Benny shouted. "I forgot my scarf." Hurry back to the shop and get it," Henry said. "We need to catch the bus." Benny ran inside and dashed back, his red scarf around his neck. "Hide, hide," he said, waving his hand in the air. "Carl is coming back." The old uns rushed to hide behind some bushes. Carl glanced around, then returned to his mermaid. He brushed the snow off the sculpture's hand, and when he couldn't find the ring, he dug deeper. "Oh, no," he said aloud. He bent down, scooping snow away from the base of the sculpture. "It has to be here. It has to." His voice shook as he searched the ground. Spying Benny's red scarf fluttering in the wind, Carl stood over. "What are you doing here?" he asked in a puzzled tone. "Are you looking for something?" Benny asked. Yes, I am." "Is this what you're searching for?" Violet said, holding up the ring. His face lit up. "My diamond ring!" he exclaimed. "Is it your diamond?" Henry asked. "Does it belong to you?" Carl stared at Henry. "Of course, it's my diamond. I bought it at Morton's jewelry store." "You bought this ring?" Jessie answered. "Yes," Carl answered. "The diamond is an engagement ring for Alex. I was planning to show her my ice sculpture and let her find the hidden ring." Sheepishly, the children looked at one another. Violet handed the ring to Carl. Carl snapped his finger in sudden understanding. "You thought I was the jewel thief?" "We didn't want to think that," Benny exclaimed quickly. Carl heaved a happy sigh of relief. "I'm just glad to have the ring back," he chuckled. "I suppose I did look suspicious." "Yes," Henry said. "You not only carried a lot of cash and went into this jewelry store, but you were nervous every time diamonds were mentioned." He grinned. "Now I know why." Carl returned the ring to the mermaid, nestling it in her hand and piling snow over it. "I'm still going ahead with my surprise. I asked Alex to meet me here." "She'll be thrilled," Jessie said. "I'd love to see her face." "Not me," Benny said, shaking his head. There will be kissing and hugging and all that gooey stuff." "That's true, Benny," Violet said with a shy smile. "We don't want to be in the way. This is between Carl and Alex." Jessie nodded. "We were just leaving." "Good luck, Carl," Henry said. On the bus, the children talked about mistaking Carl for a burglar. "Now we can scratch Carl off our suspect list," Jessie said. "Maybe we should concentrate on Janet O'Shea and the mystery man," Violet said. "Yes," Benny said with a loud voice, "especially Janet O'Shea, because she's always frowning, and we know she needs money to keep the troop going." The next morning the Oldens arrived at the rink where Alex was skating. After finishing a figure eight, she skated over to the children. "I understand you knew about this before I did," she said, giving a silvery laugh and holding up her left hand. The diamond ring sparkled and glistened. "Were you surprised?" Benny asked. "Very surprised," Alex replied. "I guess I'm the happiest person alive." Jessie and Violet leaned over to study the beautiful ring. Henry admired Alex's pretty, glowing face. "You and Carl make a good pair." "And not only on the ice," Jessie added, smiling. She was happy for Alex. At the far end of the rink, Ollie was practicing his clown routine. He leaned forward in a lopsided spin. "We forgot about Ollie," Benny said. "Maybe he stole the diamonds." "Maybe," Alex said, "but he doesn't have much time. He practices a lot. He seems more interested in skating and making people laugh." "I'm glad," Benny said. "He's a funny clown." But he wondered, how long did it take to crawl in a window and steal a bag full of jewels? "There's Mrs. O'Shea," Henry said. "I wonder if she'll tell us who the man in black is." "I hope you find what you're looking for," Alex said, skating backward. "You're good detectives," she smiled. "I'm glad you know Carl is innocent." The Aldens left Alex and hurried over to Miss O'Shea. "Hi, Miss O'Shea," Henry said. Janet O'Shea turned. "What is it? I'm a busy woman." "We wondered about the man in black," Jessie said. "The man in black?" She paused. What do you want to know about him?" Benny squinted up at her. "Maybe he's the robber." Oh, the short, plump woman sank down onto a seat. "Is he with the troop?" Violet asked. "We've seen him spying on people." Janet O'Shea gazed at her fingertips. "I don't know who he is." Jessie thought this was strange. They had seen Janet talking to this man. Maybe Janet and the man had planned the robbery together. Suddenly Jessie had a thought that hadn't occurred to her before. "Have there been other robberies beside the Murrays?" she asked. "Yes," Janet O'Shea answered. "In every town where we've performed, one of our wealthy patrons has been robbed." So, Jessie reasoned, if anyone joined the troop after the robberies, that person would be in the clear. Janet O'Shea's fingers tapped her chin. "No one is that new to the troop." Janet O'Shea stood up. "Time to go to work. I've a pile of bills to go through." She shook her head. "I don't know how I'll pay my skaters." She left and Aldens stared after her. "Hi, everyone." Marcia hobbled toward them. "I've been working on my costume." "Are you going to be off your crutches soon?" Benny wondered. Marcia gazed at Benny. "Why?" "I want to see you skate," he replied, folding his arms. "I'd like to see you skate too," Jessie said, taking a deep breath. There was no easy way to say what was on her mind. She couldn't come right out and say, "I think it's strange that you don't remember Valentina Markov." Frowning, Marcia turned to face Jessie. "You think I stole Mrs. Murray's jewels, don't you?" For a moment Jessie didn't reply. Then she said slowly, "Did you?" Marcia's frown changed into a smile. "You really don't believe I could crawl... You don't really believe I could crawl through a window, sneak upstairs, and steal jewels, do you?" She raised a crutch. "No way I could be the thief." "No," Henry agreed. "Being on crutches, you wouldn't be able to rob the Murrays. But we need to suspect everyone, Marcia," Violet added, not wanting to upset her. "What about the mystery man?" Marcia questioned. "He spies on everyone." "I don't trust him." "We're wondering about him too," Violet said. Marcia shook her head and hobbled away. "Let's go home," Benny said. "I want to build an ice sculpture like Carl's." Violet laughed. "We might not be able to make something that pretty, but I bet we could build a great snowman." Benny grinned. "Good, but first I want to buy an apple in the coffee shop." They all went to the coffee shop, and as they were leaving, Jessie picked up a newspaper on the floor. Scanning the contents, she silently handed the paper to Henry. "This is an article from the Greenfield paper," he said. "It's about the upcoming benefit performance." He read off the names of the listed board members. When he came to the Murray's name, he stopped. "William Murray's name is circled in green ink," he said in an excited voice, "just like the ink on that map of Greenfield we found. It looks as if someone was interested in the Murrays and their house," Violet said. "Someone in the troop?" Jessie asked. Benny wrinkled his nose. "I don't like whoever did it." "Shall we build that snowman?" Henry said, patting Benny on the back. "We're getting closer and closer to finding the real thief." He tucked the article in his pocket. Jessie hoped so. There were so many suspects, though. It was hard to figure out who could be the thief. Chapter 8. A Dead End. When they arrived home, the Aldens changed into old clothes and then hurried outdoors to build the biggest snowman on the block. "Watch romped it," Benny sighed, and Benny threw snow up in the air, letting it drift over him and the dog. Laughingly, Benny plunged into a snowbank. Jessie pulled him out and dusted him off, saying with a chuckle, We don't need to build a snowman. We'll just stand you in front of the house, Benny, and stick a broom in your hand." "No, no," Benny shouted, taking off his knitted cap and shaking snowflakes out of his short brown hair. "We'll build a real snowman. Come on, Violet, let's roll a big snowball." Violet waded through the snow and joined him. Benny made a snowball, and together they rolled it over and over until the tiny ball grew and grew. "Jessie," Henry said, "we can't let them get ahead of us. Let's roll a huge ball for the bottom of the snowman." "Okay," Jessie said, hurrying to help him. They began to roll a second ball. Bigger and bigger it swelled. Once Jessie and Henry's ball was in place, Violet and Benny set the smaller one on top. Now the snowman had a body, but no head. "I'll roll the head," Benny exclaimed, starting another snowball. Watch leapt and played alongside. His paws and muzzles were white with snow. Henry formed snow arms and then stuck the snow shovel through one. When the snowman was complete, Violet added a carrot for the nose, purple grapes for eyes, and a slice of melon for the mouth. Benny dashed inside and found an old hat, scarf, and gloves to decorate the snowman. Jessie finished it by adding 5 green apples for buttons. "I could eat one of those apples right now," Benny said. Henry laughed. "Shall we start supper?" "Yes," Benny said, snow covering from head to foot, except for his rosy cheeks and twinkling eyes. The children stamped snow from their boots before entering the house. In their rooms they changed into dry clothes. For supper, Henry heated chili, Jessie set the table, Violet made a salad, and Benny arranged crackers on a plate. James Alden came home just in time for dinner. "This looks delicious," he said, sitting down and rubbing his hands. He smiled at his grandchildren. "I like your snowman, but tell me, what else did you do today?" Jessie told him about the mystery man. Violet described the newspaper article she found. Benny told about Carl and Alex's ring, and Henry explained the green ink that was used on both the article and the map. Grandfather nodded wisely. "Well, there are a lot of suspects. With you and the police working on the case, I'm sure you'll find the guilty person." He reached for a cracker. "Be careful, though. William Murray is concerned too. We don't want you to be in any danger." "I don't think we're in any danger, Grandfather," said Henry, spooning up the last of his chili. "We want to find Mrs. Murray's diamonds," Jessie said, "but it's very confusing." "Maybe tomorrow night at the performance all the pieces will fall into place," Grandfather reassured them. Benny shook his head. "I'm about ready to give up. Everyone could be a thief," he counted on his fingers. "First there's Marcia. Then there's Janet and Ollie and the mystery man. For all we know, it could even be Alex or Carl," Jessie said. "We can't eliminate them totally." Henry smiled at Benny. "Since when do we give up, Benny? We'll find the thief. Now it's time for dessert." He brought in a chocolate cake. Jessie cut 5 slices. Grandfather said, "I know you will. By the way, today I received a call from Joe and Alice." Violet's eyes sparkled. "Where are they?" "Did they find Sue Lee?" Jessie asked. "When will they come home?" said Benny with a mouthful of cake. James Alden leaned back in his chair. "One question at a time. Sue Lee is with Joe and Alice in San Francisco. The Greenfield Airport is still closed, but by Saturday the runway should be cleared and planes will be able to land. Saturday will be a glad day and a sad day," Jessie murmured. "Sad?" Henry inquired, raising his brow. "Why?" "Well," said Jessie, "we'll be glad to welcome Joe, Alice and Sue Lee home, but sad because the ice skating troupe will be leaving for Cincinnati." "That's true," Violet agreed, "but still, I can't wait to meet Sue Lee." Benny said thoughtfully, I wonder if Sue Lee plays Monopoly. Jessie smiled. If she doesn't, we'll teach her. Grandfather, does Sue Lee speak English? Grandfather replied, Alice said Sue Lee had learned English from a woman in the orphanage. Then he said, tomorrow is a big day. Aren't you baking cookies to sell at the benefit performance? Yes, we have a lot to do, Henry said. We're going to the Civic Centre in the morning. I promised Carl I'd mend his shirt, Violet said, and help Alex with her costume. Henry piled several plates together. Let's clear the table, wash the dishes, and then bake cookies. Baking cookies is fun, Benny said as he helped Jessie bring dishes into the kitchen. Violet and Henry washed and dried them. Once the kitchen was clean, Henry opened the cookbook to 2 recipes, one for jam thumbprint cookies and the other for gingerbread men. First, Violet said, let's bake jam thumbprint cookies. They're pretty and will be perfect for the holidays. Jessie mixed the sugar and butter, then Violet added the eggs. Henry measured flour and stirred it in. After they'd let the dough chill, they all helped form it into little balls. Once the cookie balls were on the metal sheet ready for baking, Henry asked, now, who wants to press down the centre of the dough with your thumb? Let me, Benny said in a loud voice, holding up his thumb. I've got a good thumb. All right, Benny, Jessie said. Go ahead. Benny loved this part of the recipe best of all. Carefully he pressed each cookie with his thumb. Then Jessie filled each dent with a spoonful of raspberry jam. While the thumbprint cookies baked, Violet mixed flour, ginger, molasses, sugar and eggs for the gingerbread men. Henry rolled out the dough. Using a cookie cutter, Jessie cut out the gingerbread men. While the cookies baked, the Eldons sat around the table and played Who Am I? Jessie thought of George Washington. Henry guessed Washington on the second clue. When the stove timer buzzed, Jessie removed the baked cookies. Violet filled the pastry tube with white frosting. She added a happy face to each gingerbread man. After covering each tray with foil, Henry stretched. I'm tired. Me too, Jessie said, wiping a smudge of flour off her arm. Me 3, Benny gave a big yawn. Let's take our showers and go to bed, Violet suggested, heading for the stairs. That night Benny snuggled deep under the covers. He smiled, thinking of his idea. He had a wonderful plan. He might be the one who would capture the thief all by himself. Chapter 9. Green Ink. The next morning, as soon as Benny arrived at the Civic Centre, he picked up a program for the night's performance. Next, he went back to the edge of the rink. Carl, Benny called to the skater who practiced a caramel spin in the middle of the ice. Would you come here? Jessie had warned Benny not to upset Carl's practice, but Carl skated over to Benny. What can I do for you? Would you sign this? Benny said, holding out the program to Carl. Sure thing, Carl said. I'd feel honoured. Do you have a pen? Benny shook his head. No, sorry. I've got one right here, he said, skating to the bench where his jacket lay. In fine handwriting he signed, To Benny, a wonderful friend, Carl Underhill. Benny hugged the program to his chest. Thanks, Carl. With a friendly wave at the Eldons, Carl skated away. No sooner was Carl gone than Alex glided up to Benny. She gave him a teasing smile. Aren't you going to ask for my autograph? Yes, Benny said. I wanted you next, Alex. He pointed to her name on the program. Will you sign here? Be happy to, she said, skating to her gym bag on the bench and pulling out a pen. Benny's eyes grew big and his smile turned upside down. That's a green pen, he stammered. Alex smiled. Is something wrong with a green pen? No, Benny said, but his heart sank. Alex signed her name and Benny frowned. It was just what he was afraid of. The ink was green. Thanks, Alex, he said in an unhappy voice. You're welcome, Carl Alex answered, skating to join Carl. Benny took a deep breath, wishing Alex's pen hadn't been green. He went off to get Janet O'Shea's autograph, but she didn't have a pen and didn't have time to find one. Then he asked the mystery man, but he wouldn't sign either. He shook his head. Maybe his idea was dumb. Then Ollie came by. Benny asked him for his autograph too. Ollie pulled a pen out of his hair and printed his name. Benny's eyes widened. Each letter was in a different colour. Ollie. O, yellow. L, red. L, orange. I, blue. E, green. What a weird pen, Benny exclaimed. It can write in different colours. Here's one for you, Ollie said with a big wink, pulling a second pen from his wig and tossing it to Benny. Then the clown slipped and slid his way across the rink. What are you up to, Benny? Asked Violet. I think you're after more than Skater's signature. You'll see, Benny said. He didn't want to tell anyone his plan, not even Violet, especially if it didn't work. Jessie and Henry set up tables for their cookie sale, while Violet hurried backstage. I almost forgot to mend Carl's shirt, she murmured. Once in the dressing room, Violet settled back into a back nook hidden by hanging costumes. She wasn't there long when someone entered. Violet peeked around the corner and drew in a sharp breath. Marcia propped her crutches against the wall, then hunched her shoulders and rotated her arms in a relaxing motion. I'll be glad to throw these things in the lake, she muttered, glaring at her crutches. Violet's eyes grew big. Without her crutches, Marcia walked across the big room to her green costume that hung on the wall. She closely examined the glittering material, making sure the buttons were on tight. Then she held the costume up to her. Violet, careful not to make a sound, sat very still. Marcia must not know she was here. Finally, Marcia turned to leave. She tucked her crutches under her arm and hobbled out to the rink. Thoughtfully, Violet bit her lip. Didn't Marcia need crutches? She hurried to tell Benny, Jessie, and Henry. I just saw Marcia walk without crutches, Violet said breathlessly. Jessie looked across the rink. But look at Marcia now. She's limping alongside Carl as innocently as you please. Maybe she's just getting better, but if she's the thief, I can understand why she pretends to need the crutches. It's a perfect alibi. I'm going to get Marcia's autograph, Benny said, jumping up. Do you need to, Benny? Henry said, we should discuss Marcia and her crutches. I need to, Benny said with a firm voice, dashing out. Marcia turned her back when she saw Benny rushing towards her. Marcia, Benny yelled. Wait! She half turned impatiently, tossing her red curls. I don't have time to chat. This won't take long, Benny said, thrusting the program under her nose. Please, won't you sign this? I've got most of the other skaters' autographs. Oh, Marcia said with a sudden smile, if that's all you want, I'll be glad to sign. She held out a hand. Give me a pen. Benny patted his pocket. Oops, I forgot mine. Do you have one? She sighed, hobbled over to her tote bag and fished out a pen. Signing her name with a flourish, she said, There, Marcia Westerly. She swung away on her crutches. Benny stared at Marcia's green signature. He couldn't ask for better than this. Wait until you see what I've got, he crowed to his brother and sister, waving the programs over his head. Henry looked at Marcia's signature, written in green ink. Benny, you're a real detective. Benny glowed at the praise. Now we know Marcia doesn't need crutches and could easily climb in a window, Jessie stated, and she also owns a green ink pen. She smiled at Benny. I'm proud of you. Benny stared at his feet, but Alex and Ollie had green pens too. Alex had a green pen, Jessie said. And Ollie too, Benny nodded. Benny, Violet said, you had a good idea. All we need are more clues. Yes, Henry agreed. We can't accuse Marcia or Alex or Ollie unless we can prove one of them stole Mrs. Murray's jewels. He hated to hear that Alex used green pen. For a moment the children sat, deep in thought. Just because Alex and Ollie and Marcia wrote in green ink, Jessie said, doesn't prove they're guilty. Benny frowned. No, but it could. And what about the mystery man? Violet said. And Janet O'Shea, Henry added. Did you get their signatures? Benny shook his head. I guess you're right, but I still think it helps to see who had green ink. I have an idea too, Violet said, leaping up. Tell us, Jessie coaxed. Henry gave Violet a questioning look, waiting patiently for her plan. When she didn't say anything, he said, Well, what is it? Violet smiled mysteriously. I will tell you later. But you don't want to tell us in case it doesn't work, Benny said. I'll be back in a minute, Violet said, hurrying towards Alex. Jessie, Henry and Benny watched as Violet whispered in Alex's ear. Alex listened intently, then a quick smile lit her face and she nodded in agreement. What are they talking about? Benny asked, frowning. I wish I could hear. We'll find out sooner or later, Henry said. Whatever Violet had in her mind, Jessie thought, Alex obviously thought it was a good idea. She watched them disappear inside the dressing room. She wished she were on the secret.